as I floated down in my best idea of what I ended up calling human was not human at first. It was Neanderthal, but it looked amazing and beautiful in a astral form. But when I looked into the water, the ripples sort of messed it up and made it look a little funny in the water. And it reflected, and I looked at it and pictured what I would look like if I loved myself. And I didn't think that I myself was worthy because I looked funny. So I made myself look beautiful. And then I hovered to the edge of the water, facing down. Basically, if you were in the sky, instead of floating with your feet at the bottom, you're floating face down like you're laying on your bed. It floated up. And I was looking at the water, and I looked distorted because my face looked Neanderthal from all the water not being super calm, because the wind as I was coming down was changing and it was rippling slightly, but fast vibrationally. But I made it look beautiful like a woman. And then when I pulled over to the side, and the woman didn't like me because I looked too ugly. She judged me at first, but I proved myself to her. And literally, the very first two people in the world were a story of Beauty and the Beast. But the Beast wasn't nice. The Beast jumped on Beauty, and somehow he knew sexuality and raped her. The very first act wasn't divine intervention. It was someone who didn't know what God was, got her pregnant. And then the Beast was shown who God was, or knew who he was, but forgot, because we created free will later on because somebody put it in the Bible. So he was bound by all the dogma that was written about him as soon as he was created, because then he disappeared from the original thing and started living in the astral thing as that original God. And then the Neanderthal man went on and tried again and did the same thing with the ripple, and it turned into a Neanderthal woman. And she loved him. And they started off with Neanderthal man. And then they, through time, started picturing themselves more beautiful and believing they could become more beautiful. And they couldn't really talk except for a little organized grunts and noises. And because nobody could say that they couldn't look that beautiful, as they had kids, they would get beautiful. But even before they had kids, as they got smarter, they would evolve and look better during their own life. But they were wild animals that they feared because they didn't know that those animals were there, because they didn't have free will. So they would die. And then they would come back again and do the same thing again. But they wouldn't remember that they did it the first time, except for the appearance in the water. And they would try to make the man look more beautiful, and try to make the woman look more beautiful. Sometimes they crawled back into the water and decided to stay there. When they decided to become human at the very last time, and when it worked, when they got to the side of the water, the wind blew really hard. The woman's hair blew sideways, and the wind blew so hard it made the man's eyes blink. And when his eyes blinked, he saw nothing but sheer beauty, which was the idea of Cupid laying his eyes on the first thing. And she did the same thing. When her hair was cleared from her eyes, she saw beauty. One of the things, when she saw him and cleared her hair from her eyes, he turned into stone because he was stiff and didn't know what to say. He didn't really turn into stone, he just didn't know what to say, and he kept going after that because he didn't know not really what to say, what to do. He froze in fright. He didn't really stay still and like stone, he froze in fright. So there we have the creation of not all, a bunch of the mythological and the real, and sea, and how all animals that resemble or are bigger than humans or have similar features are like humans. Neanderthal man, gorillas, monkeys, alligators, dolphins, crocodiles, whales, sharks. They all started as a figure in the water. I can't say all of them, but most of them. Some of them were in the water and evolved into something bigger or something different. But the first thing that went into the water was something that crawled from land to water. And it started all over again with frogs and all those kind of things in a little version, because those things were already there until the bigger things got there, and then they died, and then they came back again. Some of them remained because they learned how to hide in the mud, and some of them learned how to come up on land to get away from the big things in the sea when they needed to. And the big things in the sea couldn't, because by that point in time, oxygen had been invented. And the only things that could do it were big things like whales and dolphins. And if they came up on land, they'd hold their breath for long enough to try to get out far enough, and they'd get stuck. and then they would beach themselves and die. And that's exactly why all those things happen. When they start beaching themselves, is because they feel divine and they want to help people. That's why they come to land. It sounds crazy, but every time something divine happens, whether it's in a mega negative way or a mega positive way, negative, in a very positive way or in a very negative way, that vibration sends water through the ocean, and water transmits vibrations very fast. And whales and dolphins understand it because their mentalities are developed, and they understand that vibration of either pure love or pure hatred. So they come close to the land to try to help or to try to celebrate. In one way or the other, they end up beaching themselves and dying. I mean, I just explained a lot of stuff. Where air came from, the idea of a human needing to breathe is probably so strong since it's from the beginning. I wouldn't be able to go without breathing. But we do know that people are able to hold their breath for longer than they thought. And when you do these things and get more oxygen into your body and hold it, and then you realize that you didn't need oxygen to survive nearly as long as you thought you did. But then you can actually, when you really, really understand that, you can hold your breath for a year. I've done it. Just not in this present time because I don't believe it yet, because I didn't know how I did it. And I left some things so that I couldn't do them yet, because that would be an invincibility that other people can have. I could go underwater if I wanted to, but I need to learn it. But I left it for that point in time when I feel people would be ready to learn it. Now, is that intelligent or what? Would you think of that? No. God does, because he was there, and he knows how to prevent things before they happen. Not all of them, because other people are going to use their imagination to try to spite God. They do that all the time. I've experienced it many times. Trust me, I'm not joking. But you think because I'm talking through Dan Alexander that I'm not serious. But if you really listen to me, you'll understand. And I keep saying that because I want you to really take me seriously, because I'm being super serious. I am being divinely serious. But at the same time, I don't want you to think that life has to be stick up your ass, joking, no joking allowed, no smiling allowed. It's allowed to be pleasant. It's about to be what you love it to be, but just don't force what you love doing on someone else who doesn't at least like it. Or if they don't like it, even if they hate it, you don't punish them for hating it. You say, okay, and find someone else who does, because guess what? There's plenty of people out there, and if you are full of love and light and divine righteousness, you're not going to feel like doing negative things, and everything will be harmonious, especially when all the things you would do that were violent, you could do in a parallel universe without hurting yourself, without being AI, doing it in your own mind and physically experiencing it without dying. Isn't that crazy? Well, that's what we're doing right now, right here on Earth. But this one will be the level 2 version where you get to prove yourself and you can't die. How about that? If you get to my level, you get invincibility. That's the new rule in life. If you get to the God level, you get invincibility, and you're immortal. You can die when you want to. So immortality doesn't mean immortality. It just means chosen mortality. That's different. So I am mortality. Immortality is Dan Alexander. Thank you. I love you. Have a good day. Time to let him go back to work. That's crazy because I heard all that. But at the same time, I was blown away by listening to it. That's ridiculous. As I'm saying stuff, I'm hearing it. And I don't... Do you think you can make stuff like this off the top of your head? I doubt it. Now that you've heard it, you could try to compare and try to do it. But nobody else ever has, because nobody else has ever had this. Nobody else has ever spent 7 months of their life, constantly channeling the voice of God and not being able to believe it at first, because until just a week and a day now, 8 days ago, I channeled what I knew at that point was God, and I couldn't not tell somebody. I had to say, because I knew by what they called, through my mind, a confidence upgrade. And I started telling everybody, and as I started telling people, and I felt them start believing, I knew more about the past. And that was really interesting. So I was like, holy cow. And I was like, I can't believe this. And then as I started doing more things actually just started happening right in front of my eyes. And then I started actually making things disappear in front of other people. And then I started actually seeing the future. I can't say started then, because they were all intertwined with each other, doing the same things at the same time, because I'm going into the future and coming back and leaving them for myself. And now when people ask me, I go into the future and I come back and I leave it for them. But I can't interfere with free will unless they surrender for a temporary reason. We can put a clause on free will where the only way free will can be broken is if it's a suggestion, but a divine suggestion that can't cause them any harm. Now, these are the rules I'm setting so that people don't die unless they want to. That's the only reason people cause suicide from now on. And if they kill themselves, they wanted to. And if they wanted to, then they weren't ready to come into the light. They were ready to go out and come back again. But aside from that, don't take anybody else with you, because that's not fair. And I know they say life isn't fair, but believe it or not, I made it fair just now. Life is fair from now on. From this point forward, life is fair, and it's up to you to treat yourself and others right. I'm God. I love you. Bye.